So while we're waiting this next minute or so, if you aren't sitting on your prop that could become a roll, you might just go ahead and roll something up. It could be a towel, a blanket, and just have that available. Just have it off to the side. So while we are sitting, we might just check in with how the back is feeling in this position. If you're choosing to sit cross-legged, if you're feeling like it's a little too much pull or stress in the back, or maybe it's really pulling you into a rounded position, you could sit up on something. It does not have to be a folded blanket. It could be a cushion, really anything that you can use to give yourself a little more lift. You might bring your sits bones back, shifting forward, and please feel free to support underneath the knees and thighs if the knees don't drop comfortably. Add in a little bit of support. So let's just take a moment and check in with the seat. Give yourself any little shifts. And let's bring one palm on top of the other with thumbprints connected, face up in the wall. Letting the eyes be softly closed. We may take a deep inhale in through the nose. Sighing it out, letting it go. Checking in with how the body is feeling. We might find a little nod in the head. Perhaps inviting the chin closer to the chest. Bringing some gentle stretch into the back of the neck. And very slowly rolling the head back up, ramping the back of the head slightly backwards, slightly high, getting a little taller, a little longer. Let's bend the elbows, mobilizing fingers. Just pick a direction with the wrist. Start to circle the wrists and let the arms expand wide. And let's circle the wrists in the second direction as we bring the arms back in towards midline. Let's repeat, perhaps arms moving forward. Trade direction with those wrist rotations. Let's bring the arms back in. I'm going to mirror directionally. Let's expand the left arm out to the left, look left, palm facing forward. We may roll the shoulder back, palm maybe facing up. Maybe a little head nod with chin to the left. And that arm may be rising. That arm may be reaching high. Check in with your shoulder. Maybe it feels better for your shoulder to keep the arm a little wider. Feel free to explore movement through the wrist. We might add in a little movement through the elbow. And perhaps we go up just a little taller, a little bit longer. And exhale, releasing down. Invite some shoulder rolls. Let that shoulder move forward, up, back, down, and around. And let's go in the second direction. And we'll pause, resting, left hand, let the second arm, maybe right arm, expand out to the side. And we may look in that direction. We might even add in a little head nod, some finger movement, full breath, and we may roll the palm to face up. At the same time, we may be rolling the shoulder back. And the arm may be rising, reaching up taller, getting longer. Fingers can continue to move. The wrists may rotate. The elbow might find some movement. We might go up a little taller, a little longer, letting that arm come all the way back down, inviting the shoulder to roll. And the head might be moving with the shoulder, go the other way, circling in that second direction. And we'll bring ourselves back to center. These little shifts side to side. And perhaps we have a prop or two in front of ourselves and we experiment with a forward bend and we might tip lean side to side. We may bring palms together and support the brow. Feeling the inhalation Expand the body. And the exhalation, soften the body. Noticing how the body changes shape through each breath cycle. And how that feels in this forward bend position. And let's slowly bring ourselves back up. Rock on back, trading the cross of the legs if the legs happen to be crossed. And we might be rocking those sits bones back. We may be reaching that left arm back up in the air, going for length, reach, perhaps looking over to the right. Right hand may come to the ground or to a prop. We might tip towards the right. You're welcome to keep the arms straight, maybe bending the elbow, rising back up to center. Let that left hand again come down to the ground, shoulder forward, up, back, down, and around. Consider sweeping the left arm over to the right. So we might be holding onto the arm. We may be peering over to the right. We may be nodding the head. Releasing that arm back through center, we might roll out the shoulders, go the other way. And as you feel ready, letting that second arm, perhaps right arm rise, reaching up, looking over to the left. We might be tipping, leaning left. Maybe we're bending top arm, maybe we're bending bottom arm. We might prefer to keep the arm straight. We might prefer to find a little bit of movement. Let's rise back up, reaching up, and as we bring that arm down, consider bending the elbow and sliding the arm over to that second side. So the chin might be turning over to the left, the head could be nodding, the fingers could be moving. The head may be tilting to find the perfect neck stretch for now. Let's come back to center, roll out the shoulders, mobilizing in any way that feels good to you. Consider moving in that second direction. We may be finding the props and inviting ourselves forward, maybe a little glide side to side, perhaps supporting the brow. Sigh, slacken the jaw, maybe even stretch the jaw long and wide. Letting the lips move softly back in towards one another. Let's slowly make our way back up. Rock on back, extending the legs, give a little wiggle to the knees. Consider if you're wearing socks, you might decide to just take a moment and peel those off if they don't have traction on the bottom, so it's not too slippery on our yoga mats. And let's bring ourselves up to stand. So coming to stand in any way that works for you. If you need to clear and props off your mat, go ahead and do so. Just give yourself a moment to shift a little bit side to side. Feel free to use a wall or anything else that you might like for support. Let's take one foot back, starting to circle the ankle. Let that ankle move and go the other way. Now, some of us might be comfortable keeping our toes on the ground like I'm doing. Some of us might not be. Please feel free to take your foot out to the side or bring it a little forward. Pick that foot right up in the air as needed. Matilda's decided she must join us. And then release that foot. We'll spin around to the second side and we'll let that second leg reach back. And perhaps we're rolling the foot. Trying both directions, and again, you can always choose to keep that foot completely off the ground if rolling over the tops of the toes just doesn't feel right for your body. Let's step back so we have the feet grounded, but we might widen the feet so we feel more balanced as we sway the hips side to side. So you're just going to move at your comfort level. How are your hips feeling? Side to side. We might put a little bit of bend in the knees and try out some circles. Kind of like you're hula hooping, but your hula hoop wouldn't stay up if you were going this slowly. And then go the other way, circle in the second direction. Now maybe we try the figure eights with the hips. reverse direction, go the other way. And perhaps we step the feet in now, bend the knees, hands either on the knees or just above the knees, and let the knees circle. So we're mobilizing the ankles here too. Pause and trade. So we're circling in that second direction. And we'll bring ourselves all the way back up to stand. Spinning palms to face forward. Reach the arms high, the gaze may rise. And as we exhale, moving into a forward bend. Placing the hands on props or the ground, bending the knees as deeply as you like. Take the feet wider if that feels better in your body. Maybe we're shifting the hips side to side. Check in with the neck. Can we let the head get heavier? Perhaps nodding or gently circle nodding the head. And we may flutter the lips. So basically that's just a raspberry. Take a deep inhale in. Fluttering lips. Let the cheeks straight. Putting some bend in the knees. Hug the belly muscles and start to round part way up. Bringing hands or forearms to the thighs. Let's sink the hips. So if bending the knees doesn't feel so great, maybe you come up a little bit higher and just find the place where you can comfortably bend the knees. Consider taking the left forearm, again, I'm mirroring across the thighs, lift the heart, and as we exhale, turning, twisting towards the right. Maybe we heat ourselves up, sinking a little lower. Right arm may rise. We'll flush out those thighs, tip it forward. Let those hips sway side to side. Putting bend in the knees, wrap the belly muscles in. We may be rolling back up to stand. If the feet are a little wider, step them in, and we'll slide on down to that second side. Find your squat, right forearm across the thighs, left hand to the hip as we twist. The left arm may rise, reaching high. And as we exhale, tipping back in, wiggle out, shift through the knees, the hips. Consider walking the feet back into a down face dog. So we may be pedaling the feet. Now we may drop, say, the right heel and peel the left heel up, pivoting left knee, left toes out to the left. Left heel down at center, right heel rising, right knee, right toes pivoting right. We might even find a little wiggle of the leg. So just find your own comfortable pace. And then start to settle the heels a little closer to the ground. The feet may be parallel. Look for ease through the neck. The head may be nodding. We may tilt the crown of the head towards one inner elbow. And very slowly exploring the other side. Let's rock on forward into a high plank, moving back and forth. So we're getting into the toes. Feel free to land the knees at any point. We'll slide down to the belly. Plant the hands to the ground. Let the heart rise. Cobra. Rolling back down. We may slide the hands in, letting the heart rise. Cobra. Releasing back down. One more round like that. Rolling up. And rolling back down to the ground. With hands planted. Inviting ourselves back into a child's pose. So deep hinge at the knees at the hips. We might have the arms reaching straight ahead. The forehead could be resting on the ground. We might grab a prop and slide it under the brow. You may prefer bend in elbows. Over the next couple of breaths, consider tucking the toes, lifting the hips, and returning to down face dog. Now we may step our feet wider and turn the heels in so we have a wide V shape. Heels might be on the ground. Heels may just be reaching towards the ground. The heels may rise and the knees may bend so that you are in a frog dog squat. And then we may straighten the knees and send the heels down to the ground. Now, if it feels like your hands are maybe slipping forward, you can always shorten that frog dog. So the heels may rise and the hips may move closer to the heels. Try to keep the head at center. I know I keep turning my head to the device as though I can see someone, and you might be doing the same to look at the screen, but try to keep your neck in line with the spine. So we might be extending the legs and then dropping the heels, and we may just pause for a moment, maybe a little nod of the head, and perhaps one more round. Heels rising, sinking the hips, let those heels rise, and release. Let's step our feet so the toes again face forward. Drop the weight into the left leg. Invite the right leg to rise. Now maybe we send the left heel closer to the ground or on the ground. We may be bending right knee. Drawing that right knee into the chest. Peel the left heel up. Step that right foot forward between the hands. Go ahead and grab some blocks if you like, and we might find a little shift forward, a little shift back. We may land that back knee. We might want to pad the back knee. We may want to point the back toes. Your knee, your toes may all have an opinion about that. Perhaps we circle that right arm forward, up in the air, moving into that twist. We may take that top arm overhead, let the fingertips come to the ground, tuck the back toes, let that back leg rise. Take as many steps as needed to bring that back foot forward, looking out. Exhaling, chest to thighs. Give the head nod, a circle. Putting down in the knees, hug the belly muscles in. We may sway the arms as we roll back up to stand. Toes fanning, palms facing forward. Inhale, arms high, the gaze may follow. And as we exhale, forward fold. Inhale, look up, lengthen. Let's walk on back, find that down dog position. We may wiggle the feet a little further back, rock on forward, find our way towards plank, and we may be holding. We might bend the elbows, wrap the elbows in, finding that hover hold position, a little bend in the elbows, drop the knees at any point, releasing down to the belly, feet pointing, heart rising, and rolling back down to the ground. Inhale, heart rising. And exhale, returning to earth. Planting the palms, pressing back into child's pose. We might slide the arms back, letting the backs of the hands rest on the ground. Make sure the brow is supported with a prop or right on the mat. We can stick with this variation. We may weave our fingers together on the back. We may take the bound arms up in the air. Rebending the elbows, letting the hands come back to the ground. Let's slide the arms forward. Hug those belly muscles in, resuming down face dog. Pedaling it out, shifting it out. Let's take a moment to drop the weight into the right foot. Let the left leg rise. Right heel may be releasing towards the ground. We may be bending that top knee. Maybe we're bending and extending the top leg. Beginning to draw that top knee into the chest. Let that bottom heel rise. With control, navigating left foot forward. And we might be finding the movement forward, the movement back. Feel free to drop that back knee to the ground. We might cushion the knee. We may be widening right hand, circling that left arm up and overhead. Tucking back toes, let the back knee rise, releasing left hand to the floor. As you're ready, navigating right foot forward, looking out. Exhaling, chest to thighs. Give your head a little nod. One more time, bending the knees. We may sway the arms, hug the belly muscles in, rising up to stand. Consider grabbing a prop, maybe a block, pop it between the thighs. Bend the toes wide and start to return to that bent knee squat, the toes facing forward. We may be circling the arms up. If your shoulders don't love that, just keep the elbows a little wider, maybe a cactus arm position. Tuck the ribs back if we tend to be back bendy. Let those thighs heat up. And as we exhale, tipping and finding our forward fold. Slide the block out. Let's look for that rolled prop, and maybe we have it up towards our top short edge of the mat. You might want blocks underneath the hands for this. Step your right foot, palm onto the right foot up onto the roll, heel down. Maybe the left foot moves further back. Maybe the left foot is just a little behind that right heel. We might take a moment to bend the knees. Slowly extend both legs. We might spin our blocks down lower. We may roll a little more weight towards the little toe side of the foot, pressing down into little toe ball mound. We might again bend that front knee, bringing ribs, right ribs, perhaps against the right thigh. We may be working that right leg closer to straight. The blocks may drop, the hands might come down to the ground. And we find more ease through the neck. Let's inhale to rise halfway up, step the right foot off, and bring the ball mound of the left foot up onto your roll. So the heel is staying connected to the floor. Please feel free to bend the knees as much as you like, draping and tipping. Maybe we're lowering our props. And then perhaps we're working that front leg closer to straight. Looking for ease at the base of the skull. We may be tipping a little more weight to the little toe side of the foot. Maybe this is the tighter side. We might stay where we are. We might bend the knee, left ribs to left thigh, and gradually re-extend the leg. Maybe the blocks go lower, the hands might slide off the blocks and come to the ground. Bringing bend back into that front knee. Let's spin our blocks back to their low or medium or even the high setting, stepping that left foot off of your prop, shift out anything that needs it. Let's slide our roll out of the way. Right foot forward, toes fanning, left foot reaching back. You always have the option to put that back knee down if you prefer. Let's walk the hands up the thigh. Find a focal point. Hands may be on the hips. Full breath, we may stay right here. If we're feeling steady, we might take one or both arms overhead. The throat may slide back, the gaze may be rising. Bending the elbows, letting the hands come back down to the props or the floor. Step the left foot in just a little bit so we can work the right leg closer to straight and maybe pivot left heel over to the right. We might spin our blocks lower still.
We may lift the ribs. Perhaps we're bringing hands down to the ground. The brow may be moving closer to the leg. And to bend back into that front knee. We may want hands on blocks. Perhaps wiggling the left foot a little further back. We're lunging into that front knee. We're walking the hands up the front thigh. Hands may find the hips. We might be lifting both arms up in the air, warrior one. The elbows may be bending. We might keep hands on hips, wrap the elbows back, or weave the fingers together. Roll the shoulders back. The arms may extend. We may be sliding right ribs inside right thigh, taking the bound arms overhead. Right toes fanning, looking for balance. There might be wobbles. Rebending the elbows. Let's take a moment, start to rise up, peel that left heel up, navigate, tap step that left foot in as needed until we have both feet side by side, shifting out anything that needs it. Let's rise halfway up, step or slide that right leg back. Again, you always have the option to put the knee down. We may be walking hands up the thigh. Hands may find the hips, widen that right hip, fan the left toes. The arms and the gaze may rise. We may have movement in the fingers, maybe a little head nod. Finding that fullness of breath. Rebending the elbows, let the hands come back to the ground or the blocks. As needed, tap step that right foot forward. Right heel may pivot left as we extend the front leg. We might widen the right hip, roll the left hip back. Perhaps we're folding and tipping in a little deeper. Perhaps we're bringing the hands all the way down to the ground. You can always back it off, bring more bend back into that front knee. And let's do bring more bend into that front knee. As needed, we may heel toe that right foot further away, wider, further back. Walk the hands up the front thigh. Hands may find the hips widening, right hip to the right. Lunging into that front knee. We're working that back leg towards straight, but just stay really mindful of the knee and the hip. You might want to have some knee bend there. So perhaps the arms rise, the gaze may rise. Let the elbows bend, hands to the hips, shoulders back. Option to weave the fingers together. Maybe you're swapping the cross of the thumbs, arms sliding back. Left ribs sliding inside, left leg bound, arms moving overhead. Reminding yourself to keep the bend in the left knee, front knee. Rebending the elbows. Let the hands find the blocks, maybe the ground. Let's peel that back heel up, navigating back foot forward, looking out, exhaling, chest to thighs. Let's inhale, rise halfway up, toes fanning. Put some bend in the knees. And as you feel ready, rising up to stand. Now you may be at the short edge of your mat. Let's go ahead and step out so that the toes are facing the long edge of the mat. Heel toeing, feet wider apart. I'm mirroring in this orientation. Turn right toes towards a short edge of the mat, lunging into the front knee. Extend, fan the toes wide. Check in with the hip, check in with the knee. We're looking to find a lunge. Notice if the knee is rolling in.
Try to keep the knee stacked over the ankle. Line the hips and shoulders up so they're facing forward. Let's open the arms out towards a T, chin to the right. Perhaps we sink into that lunge a little deeper. We may roll the shoulders back, palms face up, extend the front leg, lift down the toes, thumbs to brow, thumbs to heart. Toes are softly back on the ground. Rebend that front knee. Start to slide to the right, bringing top hand onto top hip. We might grab a block and extend the right leg. Left hip, perhaps stacking on top of right. Check in with the weight in that down hand. You might adjust the feet in so that you can really hug in, right heel to left instep. We might rise up a little higher. So we might find the place where truly, if we're putting the hand down, it's just a very light touch. Rebending the knee, take the block with you as you like. We'll rise back up, pivot right toes in, left toes out. And let's just take a moment, bend the knee, deposit the prop. We might need to adjust our heel toe, the distance between the legs. Bend left knee, extend, fan the toes. Let's place the toes. Hips are facing forward, shoulders over hips, arms reach out, chin to the left. Check that knee. Did the knee roll in? We might use our hand as a guide, or maybe you were just aware of it and use the muscular strength of the leg to roll that knee back, left toes fanning. Neck lengthening, crown of the head high. Let's roll the shoulders back. We may be extending that left leg, reaching the arms high. And as we exhale, thumbs to brow, thumbs to heart, we may glide the elbows over to the left, bringing the hand to the thigh, tipping more left. Maybe our fingertips find the block. Maybe the first round as we straighten the leg, we're sinking a little more into the hand, a little more rooting downwards as we find that balance point. Maybe we need to adjust the back foot, and then we're hugging heel to instep. Can we get lighter with the arms? So those fingers is just a little bit of contact. You could maybe sweep the hands forward. Check the knee, make sure we're not locking out the knee. Check in with the neck. Let's re-bend the knee. Perhaps take the prop with you. We'll rise back up, pivot the toes in, and maybe we need to heel toe. We still want a wide stance, but look for what feels right for you. Inhale, let the heart rise, draw up on the kneecaps. Hinge at the hips. Do bend the knees as needed though, and then come all the way down to your preferred depth for a wide-legged forward bend. Now hands could be on props, they might be on the ground. We might look for a little shift through the hips, side to side. We may start to walk those hands a little further forward, back under the shoulders. So the heart may be rising parallel with the ground. And perhaps we're finding those blocks, looking to the left, turning left toes to the left. It's ready to go for a lateral lunge. And we might keep this a high lunge. So we're hugging, we're drawing up on the thigh, on the kneecap. We're having a freeze moment, so I'm not sure how much of that was heard. So we're drawing up on the thigh, up on the kneecap. And then let's extend the bent knee, pivot the toes in, look to your second side. So we're lunging to the second side. We're drawing up on the thigh. So we may be on that right side now. Let's go ahead, pivot those right toes to face forward. Walk the blocks to the inside of the foot. Peel the back heel up. Now we might be releasing the back knee down to the ground. Cushion that back knee as you like. Hands on blocks, hands on the floor, forearms on blocks or the floor. We may be heel toeing that right foot a little wider to the right. And we might be angling the toes. Let me switch legs so you can see what I'm doing with that leg. So you might be angling
the knee and the toes out towards the right a little bit. We might even lean towards the left, let the shoulders and the chin move to the right. We might add in a little neck mobilization, maybe a yes nod. And let's bring it back to center. We might find a little wobble at center, perhaps feeling like we're tipping more weight into the little toe side of right foot. So let's take a moment to shift the hips backwards. Feel free to stay right where you are. I'm just going to trade legs again so that I can do this with you and you can see what's happening. So hands perhaps on blocks, back toes tucking, back knee rising. We're lifting the hips and we're pivoting those right toes back through to center. So from that center position, the hands might walk back towards alignment with the heels of the feet. Perhaps we're playing with rocking a little more weight forward into the ball mounds of the feet. And if we're always forward, go the other way. So we'll walk those hands forward. Please feel free to find blocks. Look to the left and the left toes to the left. We're going for that lateral lunge, but it's a transition. So we'll keep pivoting all the way around. Maybe the back knee's touching down, and we may be heel toeing that left foot wider to the left. So that I'll just switch sides so you can see what's happening with that front leg. So that left foot might be, it doesn't have to go to the left, but it might be angling out that way a little bit. The shoulders, the chin may move towards the left. We might be lengthening that right side body, letting that right hip sink a little closer to the ground, a little further right. And let's gradually start to slide the hips back. We may need to heel toe that left foot in a little bit if we went particularly wide. So we'll tuck the toes and I'll just go ahead and swap legs again there. Lift the knee and we'll pivot back to center. So we're back in that wide-legged position, maybe hands back down on the ground. This time we may be encircling the big toes, first two fingers and a thumb, bending the elbows towards 90 degrees, and sometimes the elbows like to collapse forward. So if we notice that's happening, roll the elbows up over the wrists. Let the neck lengthen. We'll tent those fingers, let the fingers walk in. We'll rise halfway up. Heel toe the feet in until you feel comfortable sinking hips, hands or forearms to the thighs. We might sink a little lower. Give yourself a moment. Sometimes when we rise quickly out of a forward bend, we feel lightheaded. Rooting to rise. The arms may come high, the gaze may come high. Thumbs to brow, thumbs to heart. Shift out anything that needs it. And let's go for a standing forward bend. Standing balance. We just came out of a forward bend. So we'll root down through that left foot. Invite the right heel up. Maybe we're taking it a little higher. You could step the foot up onto a prop. We might go higher still and hold on to the knee. We may give that leg a little boost, shoulders back and down. Maybe a little head nod. We may be opening the right knee out to the right. If it helps you with balance, feel free to expand the opposite arm. You might find a wall to play hot potato with. Let's bring that knee forward. Consider scooping under the leg
and pressing out through the heel. Hugging the standing thigh back, neck long, crown of the head high. Rebending and releasing the foot back to the ground. Shift it out as you feel ready. Now, maybe you're going to use a prop for the second foot. Down the right toes, peel that second heel, maybe left heel up. We may be placing the palm onto the foot on a prop. You can take it incrementally higher. Maybe you're using a chair seat. We might be lifting that leg higher, hugging the thigh up towards the shoulder, shoulders back, throat back, crown of the head high. Standing leg thigh, hugging back. Let the wobbles happen and we try and find balance. The body will catch itself if we need it. And then opening that left knee out to the left. Maybe we're expanding that right arm. And if, like me, you are on a floor that's kind of wavy, maybe you just need to go to a different spot. But the waviness can be fun. It does challenge the balance and helps us work back and find midline again. We'll bring that knee back through center. We might scoop under the leg, press out through the heel, standing tall. Keeping that right thigh, standing thigh, hugging back. Rebending carefully, especially if you've got props down there, releasing. Shift it out, let the body move. So let's bring ourselves back to the top shoulder to the mat. You may already be there. We might step the big toes together. We may have the knees gently touching, sinking hips, bending knees. The arms may rise. Perhaps we take the arms down to the side, hands to the hips, elbows back. We may weave the fingers together, extend the arms, let the ribs move towards the thighs, working the legs closer to straight. Balance might feel a little tricky. Rebending the elbows, perhaps finding the blocks and rising halfway up. So the invitation is to bring yourself down to a seat in any way that you prefer. So if you just want to bend your knees and come to a seat, that's fine. If you enjoy planting the hands and walking back into down dog, please feel free to join me. We may wiggle the feet a little further back and rock on forward to plank. You do not have to do this. Hug those belly muscles in, bend the elbows, wrap the elbows in. We might just pause, build a little heat. And when you're ready, coming down to the ground, pointing the feet, slide the hands back, let the heart rise, and rolling back down to the ground. Hips pressing towards heels, child's pose. Slide the hands back towards the knees, so we're catching up together in the seat if you chose to go there first. We're sliding the hips to one side and moving the legs forward. So let's extend each leg long and check in with the back. So I'm going to exaggerate this a bit. If you find yourself kind of with your sits bones forward and the back rounding, lengthening like that, and the front body short, you may want to grab your prop, your cushion, a blanket, what have you, and bring it underneath the sits bones. Now that might just help us rise up a little bit. Maybe we can walk the sits bones back. We may need more bend in the knees to find that length in back body. Some of us might feel pretty good about reaching those legs long and wrapping little toe sides of the feet back. You have the option to use a strap. Your strap could be a blanket, a towel. You might wrap your strap around the feet. Maybe you've got one for each foot. And we may just lean back, sitting up tall. Maybe our hamstrings and back body are pretty open and we need something a little different. So we might rock those sits bones a little further back and take the hands further forward. Now check in with the neck. We're trying to find more ease in the neck, so it can be nice to support the forehead. You might want to build some props up so you have that brow support so that the neck can find greater ease. And we maybe slowly, if we went for that forward bend, returning shoulders over hips. As we do, support under the right knee. Bending that right knee, consider letting the knee drop out to the right. Maybe we're sliding a prop underneath it. We can continue to sit on something. Some of us may want to be a bit more grounded. Pressing out through that left heel, we can sit up tall if your low back is feeling sensitive. Perhaps you try a forward bend between the knees, so favoring going a little bit to the right. Maybe we try our forward bend over that left leg. We might again find support for the brow. It could be the sides of your thumbs. Slowly start to rise back up, reaching right leg long, bending that second knee, left knee. Knee can tip out to the left. You can prop up under the leg. We might just take a moment to wobble in. And perhaps we're trying out a forward bend between the knees. So favoring tipping to the left. And that might feel the best on this side. Let's check out what's happening with the little toe side of that right foot. Is it sickling in? We might think about drawing the little toe side of the right foot up towards outer right hip. Maybe we're trying out that forward bend over the right leg, perhaps supporting the brow. You are welcome to stay here a while longer if this is the perfect spot. We may be bringing shoulders back up over hips. And this time sliding that right leg in. So we're back in a cross-legged position. Grabbing your strap. And we'll be bringing ourselves onto our back. So you can use a little extra padding for cushion, for insulation, and go ahead and put maybe a folded blanket or just a blanket under your back body. So as we come onto the back, let's rock that left knee into the chest and honoring your knee, your hip, your ankle. We may be bringing that left leg into a figure four. We may grab a prop, a block, a cushion, and slide it underneath the right foot. So perhaps we're bringing that leg up a bit higher. Now maybe we're starting to hug that right thigh in closer to the chest. And we may find our strap and see about lassoing the right foot. So we may take that right leg up towards the ceiling and find a little bit of tip over towards the right. Perhaps expanding right arm to the right. And we might just rock back to center. So if we have the foot strapped, let's release it. Returning right foot back down to the ground, extending that left leg. Left foot grounded. And we're starting to bring that right leg in. So second side, right ankle perhaps on top of left leg. We can keep the left foot grounded. We might be sliding the prop underneath the left foot. We may be rocking that left thigh into the chest. We do not have to strap the foot and extend the left leg. You might choose to. Reaching up through the heel, drawing back on right toes. We may be tipping, leaning a little more to the left. We'll gradually rock it back to center, unloop the foot, let that left foot come down. Reach that right leg high, returning right foot to the ground, feet wide, knees tipping in. So you may find that your knees prefer you to stay on your back. So that is an option. You're welcome to repeat figure 4. We might rock those thighs into the chest, give the hips a little self massage on the back body, and then roll to one side, returning yourself to a seat. So let's fold that left shin in. Take the right knee out to the side, so you're in a pinwheel-ish position. And some of us might prefer to stay here in the pinwheel. We might grab a couple of blocks, tipping forward, and we may reach that right leg back, tucking the toes, rolling in front of the right thigh, right hip down, right heel may press back. We might decide to point the right foot. Maybe we tip to the left, and maybe it's a lot easier when we tip to the left. Maybe we stay there. We may draw the left toes back towards left shin, so that ankle dorsiflexion. We may rock the right hip back to the right, back and down, maybe tucking those right toes again, ratchet that right leg back. Full breathing. We may spin our props lower. We may support the brow. We may roll that right hip down towards that inner left heel, inner left ankle a little more. Please feel free to stick with this pigeon variation a little while longer. We might be tipping to the left and rebending that right knee out to the side. Now, practitioner's choice. You might carefully lift that right leg, bring that right heel in. So we're in process to trade sides. So we might be letting the little toe side of the right foot come down and just spin around. You don't have to do that. So that we can untuck that left leg, lifting that left knee out towards that pinwheel position, if that's working for you. You're welcome to stick with that. We might be reaching that left leg back, rolling left knee, left thigh to point down to the ground, maybe ratcheting that knee a little further back, tipping in, pointing back foot. We can continue to fine tune, make those little adjustments to find your spots. So maybe we're listening to the right and it's for good reason. Maybe we're doing it just because it's easier and we didn't even realize we were kind of trying to escape the intensity. We might tip back over towards the left a little. And staying a while longer if you prefer. We might be tipping back to the right. We may be bending that left knee, bringing the left knee to point back out to the left. And perhaps we're raising that left leg. And with control, bringing the little toe side of the foot down to the ground, finding our cross-legged seat. So let's find the roll again that we created a while ago. And maybe we've lost it by now, and go ahead and roll it up again. So we'll use this for a supported back bend. And typically the thicker, the puffier the roll, the larger the diameter, the more intense the back bend is going to be. You do want your head to be supported, and that might be on the floor or it might be with another prop. So you can always do less roll. We'll take our roll and place it across the mat. We'll bring the base of our shoulder blades onto the roll. We're trying to get our armpits above the roll. So take a moment to scoot on down and be a prince or princess in the pea about this. So if it's a little too intense or uncomfortable, adjust your roll. You can make it more narrow, you can make it thicker. Usually we want it more narrow. So again, make sure your head isn't just kind of tipped back and hanging in space. The arms might expand out to a T. Now, if your arms are bare and your floor is at all chilly, you might want to put some cushion underneath the arms, a blanket, a towel, some insulation really. Now the knees can stay bent, and that's a good option if the low back is sensitive. We might slide the legs long, and perhaps we give the legs a little rock. Try to find a centered position with the head. Inviting the eyes to rest. Full inhale. We may be sighing it out. Inviting the shoulders to drape. Letting the hips be heavy. And we find more ease in the space between the eyebrows. And we find more ease through the elbows. Through the forearms. Soften the wrists. Inviting that back body to become heavier. The lips may part. We may take a fuller breath, breathing into the upper chest in that space between the shoulder blades, and exhale, letting it go. Sinking into your support. We may be noticing the rhythm in our pulse, in our palms. We may be following that rhythm around the body. Knowing that you are welcome to stay here a while longer if you like. We may be deepening the breath. We may be brushing the thumbprints across the other fingerprints, bringing movement to toes. We may bend the elbows, slide one foot in, rebending the knee. Slide the second foot in, rebending the knee. The knees may tip in, feet wide. As the breath continues to deepen, we may very carefully roll to the right side, cushion the head with that right arm. Use the left hand to shove your roll from beneath you. Curling up in a ball, resting, eyes at rest. Perhaps it feels a little bit like the top side is an hourglass, with the sand sliding down to the bottom side. We may press into that top hand, pinwheeling the knees, walking the hands in, returning ourselves to a seat. We may be rubbing palms together, placing a hand over the belly, placing a hand over the heart, sitting with the breath. Perhaps sealing our practice with vibrational sound. Deep inhale through the nose. Om. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this practice. Please let me know if you have any questions.